Hi, guys. This is Dan Grieb. I'm here with Whole Life Millionaire, and I'm here with my great friend, Mr. Angelo Argentari. Thank you for coming in today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Dan.
All right, guys. We're in for a jam-packed episode here today. We're going to talk to Angelo, who is a friend of mine. He's an ultra-marathon runner. He's a business owner, and he's about to be a new dad, too, huh?
That is true.
Super cool. So let's dive right in. So where are you from?
Originally from Buffalo, New York. Live in Greenville, South Carolina now.
Okay, so how did you transition from Buffalo, New York to Greenville, South Carolina? Because that does not sound like the normal transition.
No, weather and taxes, for sure.
All right, weather and taxes. What about the weather and taxes attracted you to Greenville?
I love Buffalo summers, but the winters, as you know, very snowy, very cold, very gray. I need my vitamin D.
Yeah.
And taxes in Buffalo and New York, a killer.
Right.
So, of course, I own a recruiting company, but also I'm a real estate investor. And Greenville, South Carolina is a great place for rental properties.
Rock on. So let's jump right in there. So you grew up in Buffalo.
Yep.
How long did you live there?
I left when I was 26.
You left when you were 26.
Yep.
And you moved. What were you doing when you lived in Buffalo?
I was running, going to middle school, high school, normal stuff. And then after college, I was running a recruiting company, executive search firm. And then after that, relocated to Richmond, Virginia to do real estate investing with a guy named Frank Cava.
Right.
Yeah.
So what kind of real estate investing were you doing there?
Single family.
So single family.
Yeah.
Now, what gave you the desire to get into the real estate investing game? Because that's an interest. A lot of people say they want to, but a lot of people don't.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I had purchased a home in Buffalo to do a fix and flip on. So me and Kim, my wife, who's incredible, we were actually doing the renovations ourselves, living in the home, sucking up drywall dust, all that fun stuff. Finished it, had some good equity in the home after we repaired it. And I said, I kind of want to do more of this. So we decided to buy a course. Cody Sperber is his name. He's a big guy, big guru, sells all the fix and flipping courses. And I made it through that course. And after about 60, 90 days, I said, let's find somebody that I can be, could be my mentor to help me learn more about this. And one of my clients, Frank Cava, he said, hey, you want to come work for me down in Richmond, Virginia? And we went down there, my wife and myself, talked to him. He showed us Richmond, and I said, let's make the move. Let's do it.
Awesome. So what year did you move to Richmond?
2017.
Okay. And when you moved to Richmond, were you still doing the recruiting as well? So that was your primary job, and then you were working for the investor guy, or how'd that work out?
Good question. It was an interesting story. So I was managing director of Strauss Group up in Buffalo, executive search firm. I was trying to get ownership, right? I'm an entrepreneur. I'm like, hey, I want ownership. Didn't work out. So at that point, I said, hey, we need to figure out what's next. Talked with Frank, and he said, hey, come join my team. So left Strauss Group and went and worked for Frank Cava.
And what'd you do for Frank?
I started as an acquisition manager in sales.
Okay, so you physically went to work in his real estate company, and that was your mentor.
I was making six figures, and I took the leap and went with a 32K base salary and had to earn commissions.
Yeah, they say in life you stand in front of two doors, right?
Mm-hmm.
One's marked security, and one's marked opportunity.
Oh yeah.
And when you choose security, you lose both.
100%.
And so you did that. You actually had security. You had a six-figure paying traditional job, and you bounced from that for the opportunity of the future.
Oh yeah, I was living like a king in Buffalo, New York at the age of 24 for sure. And but I knew if I stay here, I'm going to be miserable. I'm going to regret it 100%.
So how did you know? I mean, like a lot of people say, I know, and then they never jump.
It's a good question. I trust my gut a lot. I always have. And that was one of those moments, like everyone called me crazy.
Right.
Like you ask your dad, your mom, my mom and my dad both in the same job for 30 plus years, incredible people, but I don't know what it is. It's a bug. It really is.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I've had this conversation with my son-in-law once, and I've told him there's a few times in life when you've reached success. Mm. One of them, the beginning stages, is when everybody tells you you're crazy. Mm. Because you no longer fit the narrative of their story. See, they want you to be something in their story.
Right.
And then when you no longer fit that narrative, then you get that you're crazy. Mm-hmm. The next phase is be realistic. And I say that people who love you and care about you, they will slowly kill you with this phrase called be realistic. Mm. And it's a terrible thing that happens. And then the third phase, when you really know you've made it is when you've gotten in there, you get into the hustle, you start accomplishing things start happening. And then those very people kind of come back and almost turn on you and say, you've changed. So when you hear that term, you've changed, now you 100% no longer fit the narrative that they need you to fit in their story. So you've changed their story. And at some level, and oftentimes what happens is you start to convict them of who they could have been. They start looking back at the dreams and aspirations that they had. You're now taking those leaps. You're now winning at them. And now you're making them feel bad. So therefore, you've changed.
Regret's a killer.
It is a killer.
Yeah.
So that's a beautiful thing that you did that. Now, at the time, were you with your wife, Kim?
Yeah, we were together. We were not married. We were dating maybe 4 or 5 years at that point.
Right. So I get a lot of entrepreneurs that come on here and they're like, yes, I have this dream. I've got this desire. Like, but that's not my wife's desire. And that's true. You know, I am a religious guy. I still use the F word. This is not like I jokingly tell people all the time, this is not Bible Hour with Dan Grieb. But it, you know, the realities of a divinity being at work in our lives are true. And one of the things we have to remember is that God may have put a dream in you.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean he put a dream in your wife.
Yeah.
So how did you convince her to make that move from Buffalo to Greenville? Or Buffalo to Virginia and make these changes?
God absolutely put Kim in my life. That's fact. I was living in my mom's basement at the age of 21.
Okay.
Really nothing. I was DJing downtown in Buffalo, New York, had quote unquote residency at this crappy bar in Buffalo, New York.
You made it.
Every Friday and Saturday night. I was living the dream, really was. And she was coming with me to DJ 10 o'clock till 4 in the morning, driving me and my drunk friends home after at 4 in the morning. She started with me from the bottom, 100%. So how did I convince her? I don't know. She hated the weather as well. She knew Frank helped me sell her, to be honest. And it was kind of, we talked about it, me and Frank before. I said, hey, I don't know if we're going to be able to make the move. Kim really needs to be on board. She's my better half. She was a stay-at-home at the time. And Frank brought us down there, showed her Richmond. She loved it. You know, all of our families in Buffalo live within a mile of each other. Very few people leave. My mom's one of 9, and I think 2 of us have left, and that's me and my brother. So it's really interesting to actually look back and think of that story of, hey, we were the 2 that actually left. How did Kim get on board with me? I'm not, you know, there was a lot of help for sure. It wasn't all me.
Right. Well, you know, a few things there. Number one is when you meet the right person, they're willing to change for you.
Right.
And you're willing to change for them. And, you know, I you know, one of the many Danisms I share with people is you can tell how much you matter to someone based on how uncomfortable they're willing to get for you.
That's a great point.
And so for her, it sounds like, you know, she had whatever normal anxieties anybody would have, but she believed in you.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you find the right spouse and you get with the right person, you know, your unique brokenness looks like this. This is what a whole person looks like, but you're uniquely broken and you're not perfect. You got things you could work on, you could get better on, and they're uniquely broken, right?
Right.
And you know, it's, again, Bible talk with Dan here. It says in the Bible, when 2 become 1, you're like your unique brokenness, like the things that aren't great about you, like maybe you're too adventurous, but
Right.
your wife's got a little bit of that. You know, maybe she's not adventurous enough. That comes together. Like it just brings it all together. And it sounds like you guys had that literally early on.
100%. Yeah.
And, you know, and the other right move you made that a lot of people make a mistake on is they make the mistake of not getting their spouses involved early enough.
True.
And they don't sell them the mission.
Right.
And here's the reality. It's always a sales game with your spouse, especially with men. If your wife is staying at home or you're kind of like leading the charge here, you've always got to be selling somebody. You're selling your wife, you're selling yourself on that.
It's a daily mission.
It is a daily mission, but it's a beautiful mission.
It is. It's awesome.
It really is, because
she sells me too. She sells me on things for sure.
Absolutely. And that's what it's all about. I mean, and that's what makes life really beautiful. And it's, you know, sharing it with somebody.
Right.
I have the gift of being able to do that with my wife for 25 years. We've been together 28 years, and I couldn't imagine this life without her.
Yeah. Your wife's awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
She's
Same.
incredible.
Same. I mean, that's why we're friends.
Yep.
I mean, we're cut from the same cloth. So now you're in Richmond, you get into the acquisition game at 35,000, you walk away from 100,000. An acquisition, for those that don't know, what is an acquisition agent in a wholesale real estate company do?
Yeah. So an acquisition manager, there's leads. The lead manager sets an appointment for you, the acquisition manager. You, the acquisition manager, get in your car. You drive to some house. It could be in the nicest neighborhood. It could be in the worst neighborhood. You never know where you're going any given day. Normally you have about 2 or 3 appointments a day. Show up. Hopefully the homeowner's there. Knock on the door. Hopefully you don't get shot. You're in the South now. Good old boy from Buffalo, New York, now in the South. You knock on the door, you introduce yourself, you build rapport, and you try to buy a home at 65 or 50 cents on the dollar. That's what you're trying to do.
Well, here's the crazy thing that most people don't know. That happens every day.
Every single day.
Every day.
Million times a day.
Right. And so I used to coach a guy named Jason Lewis out of Utah.
Yeah, great guy.
And I used to jokingly say that wholesalers in general are professional liars. You know, they're telling the seller, this home's not worth very much. And then they immediately go tell a buyer, this home's worth a lot of money. And they make the money that's in the spread.
Yeah.
But through coaching Jason, you know, he's actually very ethical.
There's a lot of ethical companies and there's a lot of unethical companies.
Right. And it sounds like for you were at an ethical company. You guys were doing the right things. But there's a necessity for people to sell their home quickly.
100%.
So give me some example.
There's a need.
Give me some of those examples of that.
Example is inheritance is a great one. You're 35 years old. You're a nurse. Your mother passed away. You inherited her home. You've never owned a home before. You rent. You have no idea what the hell to do with this home. This home, the roof's caving in. There's water leaking through, and you need to sell it. You can't make the mortgage payments, or maybe you can, but you just don't want this house.
And you oftentimes they live out of town.
100%. Yeah.
So
they'll be flying in from Kansas to Richmond, Virginia for 2 days to try to sell this home.
Right. And you're going to make a cash offer, I'll take it as it is. You don't even have to clean it out, that type stuff.
Right. 100. Leave everything.
Right. And so first things first is you read Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You see these commercials at night about wholesaling. Yep. And it's no different. It's no different than traditional real estate, being a real estate agent. What we're going to talk about soon here with you, ultra marathon running. The 1% of the 1% of the 1% do it.
Right.
The rest just don't do it. Mm-hmm. They're not committed, and therefore they're not successful.
100%.
And that level of commitment, because it is a trial and error. It is a knock on 100 doors to get 10 people to answer, to get 10 appointments.
It's a game of attrition. Yeah. It is a game of attrition.
It's a rejection game.
100%.
So how'd you deal with the rejection?
It was tough. I mean, I was white collar executive search managing director, right? And then 2 days later, I'm knocking on doors for $36K a year trying to buy people's houses. And wake up, do your job, grind, learn, get better. I have to shout out. There's this guy. His name is Rob McElroy.
Okay.
He's from Richmond, Virginia. He was the acquisition manager at Cobb when I got there, and I was acquisition manager number 2. The second acquisition manager the company ever had. Gatto is still to this day one of my best friends.
Okay.
Greatest guy in the world, #1 sales killer, by far the best salesperson I've ever had the pleasure of working with, meeting, leading, the whole shooting match. He taught me everything. Rob McElroy.
So what did Rob teach you?
A million different things. Persistence. We'd be sitting at our desk. He would be on the phone with Verizon, screaming, berating, negotiating his cell phone bill. And in my head, I'm like, you can do that? You can negotiate your cell phone bill? Holy cow. Just all these little different things. He's a consummate professional when it comes to sales.
Right.
Yeah.
So what you focus on expands.
Yes.
And if you focus on obtaining wealth and you don't cut the corners and you aren't lazy, you're going to get wealthy.
100%.
And he was that too.
He's persistent.
Right.
Yes.
Well, I mean, persistent is a necessity for any true salesperson.
Yes.
One of my coaches right now is teaching me about the concept of drive. Yeah. And the concept of drive is made up of 3 things. Mm-hmm. Number 1 is this high need for achievement. People who are great salespeople have a high need for achievement. The second item is this idea is they're crazy competitive. Yeah. They like to compete. So they achieve for the sake of achieving, and then they compete because it's just in their DNA that they like to win. Yeah. They like to just battle. And the third is they have a high level of optimism. If you have all 3 of those, then you have drive. Mm-hmm. My friend Richard Abraham, who's one of my coaches, wrote a book called Drive. And that's the concept of drive, he wrote a book called Never Hire Another Bad Salesperson. Mm-hmm. And the concept of drive is built into that. So with that being said, that's what you were learning from him. And
100%.
Witnessing it.
Yes.
Proximity to someone that is really doing well determines your success too. You know that.
That's very true.
And the reason why you moved to Richmond is to be near somebody who was doing what you were doing, to work
Yeah.
for someone like that. Tell me, where did that come from? I mean, did somebody teach you that, or did you kind of have that ingrained?
The proximity?
Yeah, like you just said, I'm going to go be, like you said, I'm going to go get a mentor. Where did you learn that from?
I think it popped into my head when I got my first mentor. Nobody taught me it. It was kind of one of those experience things. So I was going for my MBA at Canisius College, and I was working this crappy recruiting job for a tech company. It wasn't crappy. I can't say that. Lisa gave me an opportunity. She was the head of HR. She was incredible. I love Lisa. And gave me this opportunity, and this recruiter from this search firm, Strauss Group, reached out to me. Like, hey, you want to come into the office? He was trying to develop business from me. I went there and had a 2-hour conversation with him. Next thing you know, the owner, Randy, walks in. I had an 1.5-hour conversation with him. He's like, I don't want business from you. You want to come work for me? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So 2 weeks later, I was working for him, and just being around Randy, I think that was, to your point, being around him from a proximity standpoint. I just realized I need to be around more people like this. So I went from him, then to Frank, then to you, then to just whoever I could be around that's doing better than me, that I can learn from, that I can give value to.
Yeah, and that's super important. The proximity matters. They say your network is your net worth.
100%.
I was telling somebody recently that, we teach our children, if you lay down with dogs, you wake up with fleas.
Yeah.
And that basically says, don't hang out with knuckleheads, right, Danny? Don't hang out with knuckleheads. If you hang out with knuckleheads, you're just going to be a knucklehead. What you tolerate, you become. Like if you hang around with people that just aren't making good decisions, eventually you'll not make good decisions. But that flips too, right? If you hang out with people who are making good decisions, eventually you'll make good decisions too.
True.
Because they won't let you stay with them if you do not progress.
It's true.
They won't let you bring them down. And then you'll realize that you're going to have to constantly level up.
Mm-hmm.
And as you get to the next level, you're going to be looking for someone further up the mountain. And when you get up further up the mountain, you're going to be looking for someone further up the mountain.
Right.
And that growth is contagious and important.
But you're very cognizant of that. I'm always cognizant of that. Like, hey, I'm with this person now, but I know in a year or two that I'm going to be growing past them. Yeah. Right. And it's the drive to actually want to achieve that, make that happen.
Right.
100%.
Well, this conversation is 100% about you, not about me. However, it's fair to say that I'm your coach currently, and you're growing.
Yeah.
And, for me, the reason why I coach, because I don't coach a lot of people right now. I used to coach like 40 people. Now I coach 5 people. I keep a roster of no more than 10. But the reality here is the reason why I coach is because I have young guys like you that force me to grow, because I don't want to be out of your life. And here's the reality. There's a thing called the law of the lid. The second law from John Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And it just says the law of the lid. It's important to know this if you're a father, a mother, business person, salesperson, leader of any type. If the lid is this, if the best is this, then your people can only grow to the extent of the lid.
Right.
So in our case, if I'm here and you're here and you grow, you'll eventually have to leave.
Yeah.
If I don't grow. So what happens is if I want to keep you in my life, I got to keep growing.
Yeah.
So you're constantly chasing me, which is important.
Right.
And necessary.
Yeah.
And beneficial.
Right.
I'm the one getting paid for it, though. I get paid to grow. You get paid. You pay for me to help you grow.
Absolutely.
But listen, and I have multiple coaches that same thing. I'm chasing them. You're chasing me. That's important.
Mm-hmm.
There's really 3 people you want to have in your life at all times. You want to have someone further up the mountain. In your life, I'm kind of a little further up the mountain. And I'm basically looking down, man. Angelo, hey, just get over that part of the mountain. It's really steep. It's hard. It's a little rocky. You can do it. Just go. You can make it. I'm up here, and you're like, okay, I see you. It looks hard. It is hard, but you're there. I'm here. I can make it. That's
what I love about you is you're not like, hey, watch out for that little rock. You're like, hey, let's get up here. Let's go. And you just show me the way. Absolutely.
Of course. And you're going to find the rocks on your own regardless. They're going to hit you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be there to catch you. And that's the important part. The second person you want in your life at all time is the guy climbing the mountain with you. It's like, hey, I'm climbing. You're climbing. Hey, Dan says it's not that hard. However, I'm dying. How are you feeling? I'm dying. Or I'm not going to quit. If you don't quit, I don't quit. And you're climbing that mountain together. And that's a really crucial person. Because you can tell a story in your head like, Dan's 50 years old. Dan's been doing this a long time. I'm this age. Like, you don't understand. My circumstances are different. Well, Dan's a guy and I'm a gal. Dan does this and I do that. My coach is this and I'm that. That person next to you is like, Angelo, I just took 2 more steps. Why can't you take 2 more steps? So it's kind of like that equilibrium. You're together doing it. And then the third person you should have in your life is someone who's further down the hill from you, where you're using your experience that you're gaining along the way. And you're like, hey, listen, it's not that much harder. Get over this ridge, get to here, do these things, watch out for the ravine, watch that hot crack, step over that. Oh, and by the way, we're here, but we're going there. And, and there's someone further ahead telling us how to get there.
Yeah.
So like, you hear me say this as your coach all the time, plagiarize everything I've got.
Right.
If I get it, put your name on it and teach it to someone else.
I have many times.
And that's important. And that's part of your growth process. All right. So you understand the importance of mentors.
Yeah.
You're in Richmond. You start at 35. Walk me through how that goes. So you're knocking on doors. You're starting to acquire properties. You're getting your feet wet. You're learning. What are you learning and how's that going?
I'm learning I need to step my shit up. I remember getting to the office trying to be a 9-to-5er, and that was not cutting it. I knew I needed to make some lifestyle changes outside of the office to be 100% focused, 100% committed. I did that and started working 24/7. And that is really where the drive to start working 24/7 started. A little bit at the search firm. I would go in on Saturdays, and I would do status reports for clients and do all that stuff and be in the office on Saturdays. But Richmond is where it really turned to 24/7. So that was number one. Number two, what I was learning was true sales. Recruiting sales is a different ballgame than in-person, belly-to-belly, emotional, people's lives falling apart sales. Very, very different. So going through tons of training in person, getting beat up, getting rejected, and just continuing to drive through. That's what I learned. And then I had Frank the whole time being a mentor to me. We would literally sit in his office until, 8, 9 o'clock at night, almost every single night, just talking strategy, talking marketing, leads, operations, systems, people. Basically was, I felt like a co-CEO to him. I wasn't by title or pay by any means, but just that level of involvement that he gave to me and him just sharing everything that he knew. I think you combine all of those different things, and that's what made it successful. And that was it, 100%.
Okay, so let's talk about two things here now. The concept of working 24/7.
Yeah.
Walk me through that. Because I'm probably gonna give you a counterpoint to that, but let's just start where you are.
So working 24/7 in my head, it does not mean just on my business, right? So working 24/7 is trying to be the best possible human being I could possibly be at all times.
Okay, that's a different situation.
Right. So being the leader that I need to be, either for family, for employees, for friends, whatever that is. So to me, that's what I mean when I say working 24/7. Not just working to work, right?
Okay.
There's many different facets of life. So that's what it means.
Okay, perfect. That's what I wanted to hear, because it's not just working.
No.
Now, there are seasons of your life where you literally have to grind. It's leave the office at 2 o'clock in the morning, go home for 2 hours, go back, start at 4 o'clock in the morning. Like, that's the reality.
Right.
And that's the reality of a lot of people. People see an Elon Musk and they're like, oh my God, the world's richest man. Like, look at him. Look what he's got. Look what his money he's got. Look at his thing. Or Jeff Bezos, or you name the successful business person. And they're like, I want that.
Right.
But they don't realize that, like, Elon Musk literally lived in his business.
Yeah.
For a period of time. He, Bezos, his office was his business for a long time. All of these guys literally started in garages, and their garage was their apartment, was their business, and they worked 24 hours a day.
Right.
And, Dave Ramsey says you got to work like no one else so you can work like no one else.
Yeah.
You got to live like no one else so you can live like no one else.
Yeah.
And there is really a balance to that. One of my mentors, Harris Rosen, he recently passed away. Unbelievable Orlando icon. I had the opportunity to work for him when I was younger.
He was in real estate?
No, he owned hotels.
Oh, nice.
And Mr. Rosen, I have a hard time calling by his first name. Years ago, he's like, you can just call me Harris. I'm like, okay, Mr. Rosen. Because of what he stood for, who he was. He actually worked at Disney. And worked at the Contemporary Hotel. I don't know if you're familiar with that one. That's the one that looks like a toaster. The monorail runs through it just before you get to the Magic Kingdom. It's one of the first hotels built there on the water.
Okay.
And he worked there, and he was fired for a lack of vision. And when he was fired as a hotel manager for his lack of vision, he actually stumbled upon a Quality Inn Plaza over on International Drive, which is a tourist area here in Orlando. And he stumbled upon it. It was all boarded up. So he called the bank and said, hey, listen, you got this boarded up hotel. Why don't you just give it to me? And if I give you $1, you make it $2. And it was during like the oil embargo. There was nobody really coming to Orlando at a very high level. The hotels that were not directly related to Disney were suffering. They were getting boarded up.
Yeah.
And they made a deal with him. They said yes. So he took the deal up with them, and then he got the place fixed up, cleaned it all by himself, worked there full time, hired his first employee, and then hitchhiked to the Northeast and started door knocking busing companies.
What a gangster.
Oh, he's a badass.
Oh, wow.
And he hitchhiked there. He started door knocking busing companies and said, listen, if you bus your people to my hotel, I'll give them a discount. You can get them a cheaper price to get on your bus, yada, yada, yada. When they're, and that was the beginning of his amazing deal. Now, Harris Rosen lived in the Quality Inn Plaza for like 20 years. Matter of fact, up until the day he died, the place he lived there with his dog, first 2 employees. His dog died, buried the dog on the grounds of the Quality Inn Plaza. He ended up living there, and the day he died, his first apartment / place was his corporate offices, and he became worth hundreds of millions of dollars, owns several of the largest hotels in Central Florida, free and clear, was a huge philanthropist. There's a neighborhood outside of International Drive, which is kind of our Coors district. It's called Tangelo Park. And Tangelo Park is your typical downtrodden, poor, black neighborhood, high levels of poverty, high levels of crime, teenage pregnancy, people not graduating from high school, just bad, fatherless neighborhood, just everything bad of what you would call the hood. Harris Rosen drove through there one day. I don't know if he got lost or he knew about it. I don't know how he discovered it. Drove through there one day and he said, I cannot believe in the shadows of my hotel is this neighborhood, and I'm going to do something about it.
Wow.
So he got with religious leaders. Started a thing called the Tangelo Park Project, got with the county and the city, and fast forward to today, he has paid for kids to go to your basic college, which would be like an IPT Tech, all the way to Harvard.
Wow.
If you can get into college, he'll pay for it.
Wow.
Every kid got breakfast and lunch in school. He said, Booker T. Washington says, how can you feed a man's brain if his belly is empty?
Yeah.
So Harris believed in that, did that. Teenage pregnancies, almost 0 in that neighborhood.
Wow.
Graduation rate from high school is, like in the 90% range. College admission is super high. Just completely changed that neighborhood.
Wow.
All because of a man who Disney said had no vision. No vision. And
how incredible.
Another amazing thing about Mr. Rosen is when I took the job there, I was in charge of valet parking. Now, I was a police officer, and the company that I worked for when I was in college called me and said, hey, listen, if you want to come back, we'll double your salary. And I came back, and we had all kinds of trouble going on at this valet parking. I had 125 employees when I arrived. I fired roughly 100 of them. So I had roughly 25 people. Because it was so dirty. It was just so bad.
Yeah.
People were dealing ecstasy out of the valet booth, drugs, stealing. It was a cash business. People were stealing. And Mr. Rosen was going to fire the company that I worked for.
Yeah. And
I would show up there, and Mr. Rosen would randomly pull up, and he'd want to park in a specific spot. And if somebody was in his spot, he would kind of get angry. And then the hotel managers hated us because we were vendors, valets.
Yeah,
and, nobody could wait in valet, but you can wait in any other area of the hotel.
Yeah.
And so I created this campaign, and I didn't know what Mr. Rosen's wealth was, called Beat the Billionaire. We're going to beat the billionaire amongst our people. I hired back 100 people, and we're going to start this campaign called Beat the Billionaire. And one of the things that Mr. Rosen would do, which would drive me crazy, is like, I get all these cars parked, like more cars than you could physically park. You have 700 spots, and I just parked 2,100 cars. So I've got them stacked. I got all this stuff. No cars are getting damaged. People aren't waiting, all that. And then the GM of the hotel comes out. It's like, Mr. Rosen just came and dropped 100 cigarette butts on my desk and called me a lazy a-hole and said I need to get out from behind my desk and pick up these cigarette butts. So you need to pick up these cigarette butts. And
I wish I could have met this guy.
Oh, it was crazy. He would literally put them in his pocket and go into his GMs and say, get your lazy ass from behind this desk. Look at all these cigarette butts on the floor, on the ground. He was no nonsense. So then the GMs would come out and beat me up. So then I would have to deal with that. And I had multiple hotels. These guys beat me up. And then I realized a trick. Mr. Rosen. And this is like a real trick, one to remember for my viewers for a lifetime. No one succeeds alone. There is always a second person. Now, in Mr. Rosen's life, he had, a CFO that was his number 2.
Yeah.
But Mr. Rosen went nowhere without his assistant, Tina, knowing where he was going. Now, how did I know that? Well, I picked it up because Mr. Rosen was a man of consistency. He called me every morning at 5:30 in the morning, 7 days a week. Yeah. If I was on vacation, Mr. Rosen called me at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
If he was on vacation, Mr. Rosen called me at 5:30 in the morning. If I was sick, he called me at 5:30 in the morning. If he was sick, he called me at 5:30 in the morning. And if he was doing anything or needed to speak to me personally, I would get a phone call and it would say, "Hi, Dan, this is Tina. Mr. Rosen would like to talk to you." And then he would get patched in.
Yeah.
And I have to wait a minute or two because he'd like finish a phone call. He'd be in his car or whatever. Well, then I realized, well, if everything revolves around Tina, let me just figure out a way to become Tina's friend.
Become friends with Tina.
I became friends with Tina, and I said, "Tina, can you just tell me when Mr. Rosen is coming to my hotels?" And sure enough, she started telling me, and we beat the billionaire.
Yeah.
And as a result, he like took me under his wing, started spending a lot more time with me, saw that I was literally living in the hotel at times, and he really built that same level of work and hustle in me that you're talking about, that your mentors built in you. But more importantly about Mr. Rosen that he built in me was this behavior of consistency. Like there was no talking to him about a goal without a plan.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like if you were to say, "Mr. Rosen, I plan on doing what?" And he'd go, "Okay, so what's your plan? How you going to do that?" And if you didn't have it, you got the blank look.
Feeling dumb.
Yeah, you just felt dumb. And you know, the accountability, he was never mean to me. Mr. Rosen was never, now he was mean to people.
Yeah.
Like county commissioners, he beat the crap out of.
Right.
You know, the Orlando Aviation Authority, he beat the crap out of his GMs. But for some reason, I always got it good with him.
Yeah.
And but just who he was mattered, and for me, who I want to be matters. So now let's go back to you. So now you've got this business, you start getting better, and then you leave that for what's next. Well, no, back up. So along the way, you are also running. When did you start running? Because that's your other life.
At that employer, 100% started running then. I was 27.
Okay, when we say running, like 2 miles on the weekends?
Yeah, started off in a 5. Threw up my first 5K I ever ran.
And when was that?
2017. Wait, nope, lying. 2019, I want to say.
Okay, so around 2019, you start running. And that the other night we're at dinner, and you tell me that you've done literally all of the Mac Daddy amazing ultra races.
The biggest of the biggest. I've done them all.
All right, so walk me through the progression. So you started by doing a 5K and threw up, and then what?
10K.
Okay, 10K is what? Because most people don't know what that
10K is 6.2 something miles.
Yep.
Couldn't walk after for a week.
Okay.
Then a half marathon, then a marathon. Then I'm like, I'm a psychopath. Let's keep this going. I'm competitive, got the drive. Then came a 50K, which is 30 something miles. Did that on a nature trail. Vinny, my little brother, was with me. He videoed it. It was cool. I died. I almost gave up. I was about 10 miles in, 12 miles in. Laid on the ground, looked at Vinny. I'm cramping. I'm like, I can't do this. I'm going to quit. Sat there for about 1 minute. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Get your ass up and let's go. And got up, finished it. Then after that, after 50K is 100K, that's 60 some miles. That was out in North Carolina. And then after that, it's a 100 miler. Crazy story about that first 100 miler. Then just kept going after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot to unpack. And
yeah.
This group of viewers that I have, a lot of them are in the Ironman world. I mean, I spent some time there too.
Yeah.
Did about 16 of those.
Love Ironmans. Awesome.
Did the marathons all over the world. Did one ultra triathlon.
Yeah.
Never really got into the ultra racing.
Yeah.
But like so many amazing lessons to be learned.
Yeah.
So, obviously 5K, 10K, a lot of people can do that.
Yeah.
A lot of people think they can't do it, but they can.
Most people should.
Right. Why?
Yeah.
Why do you say they should?
I just think people need to move. Honestly, it's an achievement-oriented thing, but it's also so good for you. If you prepare and take care of your body and you can run a 5K or a 10K, you're in better shape than 98% of America.
Okay. And then you get to a half marathon.
Yeah.
Half marathon takes
That's when it gets real
average
a
person
bit.
3 hours.
Yeah.
2:45, 3:15.
2's great. Yeah.
Two's like
great.
I think 2 hours. My fastest is 150.
That's great.
And I think that's like 8:30.
That's great.
Or sub 8:30. But that's a distance that is difficult and obtainable.
You got to work for that.
So what's the lesson for you in those races? Because there's lessons to be learned. Like I can do it.
Yeah.
And then what?
So when I started getting to the marathon world, really came It's 98% preparation and 2% the race.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you get to the 100 milers and plus, it's 99.9% preparation and 0.1% the race. That's what I started learning, was all the pre-work, the stretching, the yoga, the nutrition, the saunas, the cold plunges, the mental toughness stuff. All that started kicking in around marathon.
Okay,
Yeah.
so now you get to a marathon,
Yeah.
and a marathon's 26 miles.
Yeah.
And then you get into ultras.
Yeah.
Now, an ultra is anything over 26 miles.
Correct.
Those 30 milers, they're like marathons, but it's different because the ultra world is not usually run through the city streets.
It's not correct.
That's where the game changes immediately, because you go from running on concrete, controlled cops, crowds cheering for you, 5,000 people running at the same time. As soon as you get to even 30 miles, now you're on a trail, you're self-supported.
Yeah.
Like, the game completely changes.
Whole different world.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Tell me.
Very different world. Incredible community, though, right?
Oh, yes.
It's a tribe.
Yes.
So
Alpha males do Ironman and marathons. Hippies do
That's
ultras.
fact. 100%.
I know.
I'm a hippie. I'm a gypsy.
Yes.
But yeah, that is true. So the first 50K I did was not actually even an event. It was me on a horse trail with my little brother. And I said, let's see if we can get this done. So we did it. And then after that, once you get into the races, there are some semblance of support and organization, but not really, to your point. It's, hey, the 100K that I did, it was just like a 3-mile road loop out in Ellerbe, North Carolina. You are out there, middle of nowhere, rattlesnakes, or I don't know what the hell snakes they had, poisonous snakes on the blacktop at night. But it's just one loop, and you go 3-4 miles, and when you make it back, there's people there, maybe 20 people, maybe 50 people ran this entire race. And it's just continue that loop until you get to 60-something miles. So,
and 60-something miles took you, when you did that, roughly how long?
13 hours.
So that's starting at 8 a.m., finishing about...
We start at like 6 p.m.
6 p.m., so you're finishing in the morning, around like 9 a.m.?
Around, 7, 8 a.m.
Wow.
Something like that.
Right. And then, like, the thing that most people don't know about these races, Ironman, marathons, all that, is even if it takes you 13 hours, it means you were probably awake for 17, 18 hours at completion.
I mean, we drove there the morning of. So we woke up at 7 from Richmond, drove to Ellerbe, North Carolina, got there maybe around noon, hung out, relaxed, talk shop with people, talk strategy with some of the other racers, got all of our stuff organized, and then gunshot at, I think it was 6 p.m. we started. Yeah.
Wow. Running through the night.
Yeah.
Headlamp, the whole deal.
That's the best part about it. When you're just out there by yourself, headlamp, nobody's around, and all you see is this little circle on the ground of light. That's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah. I did a couple of those ocean marathons, 7-mile ocean swims.
What?
Really, really difficult ones. And, a lot of people know that I've trained athletes with disabilities, autism, Down syndrome, fetal alcohol syndrome, all kinds of stuff like that, blind.
Yeah.
And one of the things I noticed most about, for me, that endurance athletics is that you really do find the flow. You can find the pain cave, which people think that that's like this really terrible place. But the pain cave is actually a place of quiet.
Yeah.
Oftentimes it's a place of singular focus,
Mm-hmm.
which is really hard in the world we live in today to get. The ADD, Adderall world we live in.
Seeking.
Yeah. And you've got to be in that moment.
Yeah.
Because your body is focused on quitting, not getting injured, and you're leaving. And I know you're going to talk about this when we start talking about the 100-milers, you leave the physical and you get into the mental.
100%.
Because you can have the physical, not the mental, and you're not going to make it. If you have the mental, not the physical, you can complete it.
Right.
And so
without the mental, you ain't making it anywhere.
Right. So
100%.
how are you dialing that in? I mean, what are the lessons learned at those 30, 60-mile races for you?
The only way to beat the mental game is to train in the mental game, right? So the training regimen of running at night, in Richmond, ask my wife, she would be following me on a bicycle. I'd be doing 30-mile night runs at 11 p.m. on a Saturday just to get into that pain cave. Because, it doesn't matter if you run 200 miles or you run 5 miles. At some point, you say to yourself, this sucks. I want to quit, right? You always do. So we would just do crazy runs all the time. It would be anywhere from 80 to 120 miles a week we were training. I say we because Kim was my crew. She supported me with everything. But you have to go to those places, and you have to put in the work, and you have to understand, hey, I am mentally training right now more than physically training, and you got to get through it. And you got to, put yourself in the pain cave to understand when you're in the pain cave, to learn how to push past the pain cave. So it's all just practice and getting in there.
Yeah, I've heard the saying said before that rich people and poor people both hate the same things. Rich people do it anyway.
It's true.
Ultra marathoners and non-runners both hate the same thing. Ultra marathoners do it anyway.
You tell me to go run 5 miles right now and be like, damn it, I do now. And it was like that with anytime I ran.
Yeah, I used to be 300 pounds.
Dang.
And I lost 100 pounds before I started the Ironman journey. And before that, I had never run, biked, or swam any of those distances. And I came up with this mantra. Anytime I say I can't, I must. Because like for me, life is not about running a marathon.
Right.
Like, who gives a shit?
Right.
Like you get a medal. Like I just literally cleaned out my, I retired from my competitive racing, which means, I don't know what that means. But it means I'm turning my gym at home into a bourbon room. Nice. And I got all these medals.
Yes.
Like I literally ran the Disney Dopey series, the 5K, 10K, half full.
Oh, cool.
For 7 years in a row.
Nice.
And oftentimes I would lead a different athlete through each event. So the first one I have a person with Down syndrome. The next day I'd come back and do a 10K
incredible.
with a blind person. Then the next one, half marathon with a young lady with autism. And then the full marathon, I'm pushing somebody in a wheelchair through. And I was like doing all this crazy stuff. And I got all these medals, and I'm like telling my wife, like, I'm going to throw these away.
Care about them.
And she's like, why are you going to throw them away? She's like, what about your grandkids or your kids? I'm like, do you think my grandkids are one day going to be like, here's when your grandpa did his 400th marathon medal? Right. They're going to be like, who cares? Right. No one actually cares. Now, when you're training, they jokingly say, like you didn't run a marathon unless you wear a medal all day.
I couldn't even drive my car that far.
Yeah.
They say it all the time.
Yeah. It's like you didn't even do a marathon if you don't tell everybody you had you didn't have a medal.
That's true.
And you didn't
if it's not on Strava, it didn't count.
That's another one, right? And Strava is the app that all the athletes load their data onto. How fast, how long, how far they ran.
Yeah.
And it's very. Listen, I used to check Strava to see what everybody else was doing.
You had to,
because that would encourage me. Like, oh, that guy ran, I gotta run.
I have so many best friends that I've never met because we like each other's stuff on Strava. I have no idea who these people are, but we love them.
Yeah. And cycling's even worse because, well, you probably had this. I never really could even compete in this area. In cycling, they have what are called segments.
Yeah.
So like this 10-mile stretch, somebody held 26 miles an hour for that. So
and then you got to go beat it.
Right, and somebody else goes beats it, and then you figure, I got one. I was on this country road nobody in the world's been on before.
Kim and this random girl in Richmond, they had this segment of running, and Kim would be like, she beat me. She'd go out and try to beat her every time. That's hilarious.
But that's competitiveness.
Yeah.
That's drive.
Yeah. She's more competitive than I am.
Isn't that crazy?
100%. She's a college soccer national champion. Golden goal in overtime. She scored the goal.
All right, well, we know who we're interviewing later today.
She's a beast.
Let's bring her in.
Yeah, she's a beast.
It'd be fun. Well, so let's keep going. And there's so many lessons in here that I've got to do my best to extract them from you.
Yeah.
Number one is people think they can't do the things you've done. Well, back up. You went from 60 miles to 100 miles.
Yeah.
What's the longest you've ever run?
240.
And that's Moab?
Yeah.
So let's explain that one. What's that race? Danny, why don't you try to pull up that video and see if you can just pull up like David Goggins running it. Everybody knows who David Goggins is.
Yeah, he's who started me. He got me into running. I don't know him. I read his book. Yeah. Next day, I'm like, I'm starting to run.
Which book did you read?
Can't Hurt Me. The first one.
You ever read the book Living with a Seal?
It's incredible. Jesse Itzler. Love that book. Yeah.
Danny, my producer, is actually living with me right now.
Boom.
He's living with a seal. He moved in last night.
Boom.
So he's got to wake up when I get up, work when I work, live with me.
You gonna carry the boats?
He's gonna carry the boats, and he's gonna start the Brazilian jiu-jitsu with me this week.
Nice.
Too. He's never done that. He's Brazilian, so
your wife would fold him up into a pretzel real quick.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He has no idea about Mindy. Mindy's a badass too. Sugar and spice and everything nice, but she's not that nice. She can choke you to sleep. That's funny. So Moab's 240 miles, and it's like you got to qualify to get in that. That's the story David Goggins talks about.
Yeah. So there was many races that I've ran that I had. So UTMB, actually, if you look up UTMB, that was my Super Bowl. that is when I started running and realized I wanted to go past the marathon. UTMB was my goal.
And what is that? UTMB?
It's Ultra Trail Mont Blanc. So it's
yes.
over in Chamonix, France.
Yep.
It's 100 and some mile race, and you run through the Alps. So you run through 3 countries, actually: Italy, France, and Switzerland. And
is that a 240 miler?
No, it's 100 some.
That's nothing.
Yeah. Well, it felt at the time it was crazy. The elevation is crazy.
Well, that's the other killer is the elevation.
Yeah, that's the thing. So even in Moab, I think it was 240 miles and then climbing Mount Everest twice. I think that's what the elevation is.
While
30-something thousand feet of gain.
Wow.
Yeah.
While running. Now,
So,
are you running with trail sticks or no?
Sometimes.
Like collapsible ones, I assume?
Different segments. You need them. You can't make them without.
So you have your are you allowed to run assisted on those?
Yeah.
You have pacers?
Pacers, yeah.
And so your paces are carrying your sticks, or you have
No, they can't carry anything for you.
Oh.
That's the rule.
No, how about nutrition?
They can't. You have to carry all your own stuff.
So and what's crazy is you're doing these 120, like right now you are in the obscene racing. Like the damage, like there's medical studies that say like these races damage you. Like your muscle fibers are ripped apart. Your brain tissue is damaged.
Gone.
Your lung capacity is at its wit's end.
Gone.
Like you go to the extent of human exertion.
Oh yeah, you're basically killing yourself 100%.
Why?
For the love of the game, baby. I don't know. The drive to get it done.
Yeah.
You know?
So where does that come from?
Man, I get asked that question. I have no idea. Where does this drive come from? Well, according to Richard Abraham, it's there before you're 22. So something in my first 22 years of life got me to this. Most likely my father. He has ridiculous drive. He's a New York State powerlifting champion. He's a gangster in his own right. Most of it has to come from his
And well, you have
influence.
brothers and cousins all around you.
Yeah.
Well, drive is going to be in that too. Where do you fall in the your brothers and sisters? How many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have 2 brothers. I'm the middle of
there you go. That's
3
your answer.
boys.
That's your answer.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm a middle child too.
Yeah.
And I was raised by a single mom.
Okay.
So my older brother was in charge, and my younger brother never did anything wrong.
Yeah.
And then there was me. I was fighting my older brother and my younger brother.
Sounds about right.
And so it was like the middle child syndrome is real.
Yeah, 100%.
So with that's where it came from.
Makes sense.
That's where it comes from.
Yeah.
Now, older children can have drive, younger children can have drive. But
right.
Typically, what Richard says in his book is that you're either going to get drive because of the accountability of your parents. Like it sounds like your dad was no nonsense.
No nonsense.
And that's it, right?
Yeah.
That's probably what got it. Or you have the DNA and it was ignited by some activity. And the activity could be some type of, like for me, I was the middle child and I had trauma as a child.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
So because I had a lot of trauma as a child, I've always said to myself, I don't want to be my dad.
Yeah.
So I'll do anything to not be my dad. So a lot of it was running away from the life that I could have lived. And I was literally running away from it. And for me, it was, if I don't complete, like, it's really stupid. Danny just the other day asked me if he wanted me to hold him. Hey, Danny is a young 21-year-old, sweet kid, amazing young man, super bright. He's going to pass me up by the time he's like 27. He's going to accomplish what I've accomplished in a third of the time I have. He's just got it all. And he asked me, he said, why don't we do this challenge together and we'll hold each other accountable? And I literally text him back like, I don't think that'd be a very good idea.
Sure about that?
And the reason why is because like for me, I'm so incredibly competitive that I actually hate the people I compete with.
Yeah.
I develop a hatred towards them. And I, like David, my son-in-law, he would train with me and I would not let him beat me to the pool to swim. And then I would not let him beat me on one lap.
Yeah.
I would not let him beat me on the swim.
Yeah.
I would not let him beat me on the bike, the run. I wouldn't let him beat me on a training day. Everything was crazy. But here's the mentality I had, is if I did not perform that day, I was practicing quitting.
100%.
And I don't quit on a lap. I don't quit on a length. I don't quit on a race. I don't quit on my family. I don't quit on my kids. I don't quit on my wife. I don't quit on my employees like my dad did.
Interesting.
And so for me, what I would say is that I would voluntarily take myself to such places of difficulty that when my wife brought me to places involuntary of difficulty, or my kids showed up involuntarily and brought me to difficulty, or my life showed up involuntarily as difficult, I was prepared.
Yeah.
Because I'd practiced adversity.
Yeah.
And the reason why I think my dad was such a failure, besides, some other things, was that he never practiced adversity.
Yeah.
So when life got tough, he quit. He walked out on us. And so I'll never walk out.
Yeah.
Anyone that I say, you're my people,
Yeah.
you never have to worry. I'll show up every time.
Yeah.
Why? Because I mentally have practiced it, which sounds like you did too in a different setup.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about all right, so here we are, 200-mile race. You're in, Moab's the easy one that people will know. Are you on Moab?
Yeah.
Go ahead and just play it while we're talking, and that'll just be in the screen. So this is David Goggins kind of running the Moab 240 race and talking about it.
A lawyer, a teacher, a medic, all kind of different professions in life. You have to recertify. So right now I'm at Moab 240. You gotta also certify or recertify as a fucking savage.
So everybody repeat after me. If I get lost, hurt, or die, it's my own damn fault.
Yep.
All right, Danny, stop it here. Just pause here.
Oh man.
Just pause this here. So what's going through your mind right now?
Oh man, the greatest joy in the world. That moment right there, just because like everyone thinks the race is hard, right? The race is hard for sure. It is getting to that starting line. It is the training, the qualifications, the recovery, the injuries, and being in that moment. I have videos of it. And I love watching them. It's me, Kim, and Vince. The three of us did everything ultra running together, and they blew the horn to start. And I turn around and I fist bump Vince and I give Kim a kiss and I turn and go. And it'll bring tears to my eyes just talking about it. It's incredible. That was incredible.
It is incredible. I mean, I can't relate to this. I can. This rewinds me to when I went to New Zealand.
Okay.
I did Ironman New Zealand.
Cool.
And it was a mass start swim.
That's awesome.
So it meant 3,000 people. all
Open swim, right? In the
open
ocean?
swim. No, well, this is in a big lake in
wow.
Auckland, and it was but the lake was so big it had waves.
Yeah, right.
So it was like, and so when we started this start, I'm a mid-level to at that time better than average swimmer.
Yeah.
So I started up towards the front because you don't want to swim through people and run over people. For this swim, it was a mile and a half out, a little less than a mile out, sorry, and then a mile back, and then the turns were the other portions. For the first half mile, you could not breathe.
Wow.
Because everybody was right on top of each other.
Yeah.
Well, the water from the person next to you would splash into your mouth when you'd open, and then the people would just be slapping you, and there would be somebody touching your feet from behind. You'd be touching somebody's feet in front. You're bumping into each other. It's very hard. And I remember thinking, I am not going to make this.
Die.
But then there is no option, because if you try to even slow down to take a breath, 200 swimmers are going to swim right over you because they can't see you, and they're going through the same vein you are.
Right.
That's what I remember with this.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep playing. It's 5 minutes. Well, let's go, every couple minute segment. So you take off. Danny, you might want to fast forward a little bit.
So we started during the day. These guys got lucky that they started in the morning.
What makes it easier that
If you start fresh in the morning, you wake up, you go to the start line, you got a full rest right before you start. Oh, it's huge. But I'm pretty sure they change the start times based on heat and cold temperatures.
So this is 42 miles in 8 hours is what Goggins did.
Yeah, it's about right.
And that's basically where you were at?
To start, yeah. I didn't end at that pace.
Nobody ends at that pace.
No. Yeah, I think this is the one where he got lost. He would have won if he didn't get lost.
Right. Well, he still came in third. But the point, let's back, see if we can back up. You're actually going to go up that mountain there. See these mountainous terrain?
I don't want to even think of these mountains. There was 3 mountains in that race that nearly killed me. All 3 of them.
I heard the third is the worst because that one usually hit at nighttime.
One of them, Vince actually did with me. So I remember I was hurt. We could talk about the injuries from that race. It was terrible. But it was like a mile, I don't know, 130, 120, 130 or so. Maybe a little deeper. I don't know. And I get to the aid station. It's probably 2 p.m. in the afternoon. Nice sunny. It's probably day 2. Yeah, middle of day 2. And I get to, Vince had paced me the section before. So I'm by myself and I'm injured as hell.
What kind of injuries?
Oh, man, where to start? It felt like somebody was stabbing me with a knife in the back of my left knee. I tore about 3 tendons or ligaments in my right ankle. My hip felt like somebody was hitting me with a baseball bat every step. Just injuries on it everywhere.
So your body is screaming at you.
Done.
Now, what are you saying to yourself at these points? Because
It ain't gonna kill me.
right, like that's a mantra.
That's it. It ain't gonna kill me.
It was that was
be all
literally what you'd say.
100. I'll be all right. This is fine. I'll be all right.
I remember in my races, I would say to myself, like, knee, you can scream, you can bitch all you want,
Yeah.
but I'm not stopping.
Yeah.
And then my knee would stop hurting because I realized, like, he's not listening.
Eventually, it goes away. And people talk a lot about phantom pain. Phantom pain is absolutely a real thing, especially when you're doing events like this. 100%.
So you get to the aid station, you finish up. What happened there?
I got to the aid station. I said, Vince, you need to come with me or I'm not going to make it. I'm going to cry. But my little brother, I'm here, dog. And that was the third mountain. That was hell.
Yeah.
Hell. Absolute hell.
Are you
with
crying?
him next to me.
Are you crying because it was hard? Or are you crying because your brother was with
Because
you?
of him, yeah.
And what does that mean?
He's the man. He's
More. Tell
my
me
best friend. He's
He's
a gangster.
So he's going through hell with you.
Yeah.
And that and like you'll never forget that moment.
No.
Rest of your life. I mean, you'll remember having your first baby, but you'll remember that moment.
Yeah,
too.
100%.
And like that's a beautiful emotion. That's a beautiful thing. Your brother showed up for you well.
Yeah.
Vince, congratulations.
Yeah.
You're it.
He's a gangster.
He's the real deal.
He is.
But like life needs to be like that.
Yeah.
You got to climb mountains with people. You can't climb them alone. Number one, you're not going to do it without him.
Right.
If he says I'm good,
Yeah.
you're done.
If he said I'm not going to go with you, I probably do not finish the race. To be honest, I probably would have to be like looking in retrospect. I was so mentally strong. I probably would have. It just wouldn't have been as memorable or as incredible as it was.
or you probably would have gotten really hurt too.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Your
probably.
body responds differently when there's others there.
That's true.
because the truth of the matter is like that's a 240-mile race.
Yeah.
He did one leg with you, so that's got to be 25 miles.
He did a couple. Yeah. He
so
did.
he may have done 75 miles.
Probably about 75 miles with me. Yeah.
Like 75 miles and making sure your brother's nutrition is correct.
Yeah.
And the mental game. He got up before you to prep.
Right.
He's doing all that other stuff.
Yeah.
So he's exhausted at 75.
There was
too.
times he was pacing me, and there was times I was pacing him. 100%.
You can do it, Vince. Come on, buddy. Don't give up. But that's life.
Yeah.
That's marriage.
Yeah.
That's business partnership.
Right.
That's all of that.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So try to fast forward this video and just let's just pull another spot up, Danny, and let's keep racking him. Just pull it forward. Okay. So right here. Oh, here's one of the hills.
Oh, dude, this is the start of this right there.
Uh-huh.
That is the start where Vince came with me. So this, yep. That's him coming into the aid station to start that climb.
All right. Stop it here. This is something most people don't understand is that
He was a lot bigger than me.
you're eating like pancakes, pizza.
Every hour.
What
every
are you
hour.
eating?
200 calories an hour. Every hour.
Oh, and it doesn't matter what it is.
It depends. I ate about 6,000 boxes of Nerds at Moab. Don't know why. I had a hit for Nerds, but normally, what the hell are they called? Oh my God, Stinger waffles.
Oh,
that
yeah.
was number one.
Honey Stinger.
Tailwind mixed in my water was number two. Those were the two goats. Those carried me through ultra running, and then applesauce from Costco and Nerds on this for 3 days straight. Thousands of calories of Nerds and applesauce.
Well, once your body switch, like most people, they say you want to get into this aerobic threshold where your body starts burning fat.
Yeah.
And then at some point,
Because it slow burns.
right? At some point, when there's a term called bonking.
Yeah.
When you just bonk,
Yep.
that you go to sugar.
And you have to.
And once you go to Coke or Nerds, there's no like you can't eat a crustable
You
sandwich.
can't put something heavy down.
Right, it won't
can't.
matter. You're
No.
either going to have a GI issue, and that
Yep.
GI issues will put you out of a race a lot faster
100%.
than a cramp will.
Right.
Because you can work through a cramp GI, you're done.
Yeah, you're done.
I've seen some people looking really ugly.
Yeah.
And I've made a commitment. I am way too bougie to be running around with a shit all over my ass. Goggins did it. Goggins talks about that.
He did.
A lot of guys have. I never have, thank God.
He was living off those protein shakes in the one race he was talking about in San Diego. What are those things called? I remember that's when he shit his pants in the chair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not me. Not me. That'd have been it for me. I'm just not. I'm too bougie. I'm wearing Lululemon running around
Nah,
there.
I'd rather run naked than
Yeah,
shit myself.
I don't know about that either. I'm
Yeah.
Irish. Okay, keep moving. Let's go on to. Let's kind of get down to the end of this.
Around mile 200 marker, which would mean 214-ish miles for
Yeah.
David. Unfortunately, David started to
So
That's when he got lost. Yeah, that I know exactly where that is. This is cool, actually. I've never watched this after the race.
So when he's yelling, "You don't know me, son," and all that stuff, all he's doing is he's doing a mantra.
Dude, you feel that
That's not actually for the camera. That is
Right.
for him. He needs that.
100%. And same every racer. I don't want to say every racer, but I know exactly what he's doing right now. I feel that. I feel the energy right now of him doing that because I do that.
What's he saying?
Dude,
Like, what's that? Like what you said you would say.
I'm a
like,
gangster.
That's what
I'm
you
not. Dude, I am the man. I am doing this. I'm never stopping. I can do this all day, every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We're going.
That's what you'd
That's
say,
how
is
you.
that-
And you'd feel it too.
Yeah, of course.
And then you believe it, 100%.
Well, I mean, that goes back to, a million years ago, I had my son. My son was 5 years old.
Yeah.
And he's playing on a swing set. We had a little backyard swing set. It was made of wood. And I'm like, son, jump down to me. And he got scared. And I'm like, just jump down. He's like, okay. And he jumps down to me. I catch him. And I'm like, climb to the top. Like the top. Like
Yeah.
where the swings are connected. And my wife is looking out the window. And she sees it. My mother-in-law's there too. And they're like freaking out. My 5-year-old's climbing up way too high. I'm like, climb up there and jump down. And when you're a 5-year-old, like your dad's your superhero.
Yeah.
So you're just gonna do whatever your dad says. And,
Yeah.
you don't have the consciousness quite yet to, really understand danger and non-danger. If dad says it's safe, I'm safe.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm climbing to the top and jump down. And what was so cool is I had been teaching my son this mantra, this thing called "What I Believe I Can Achieve," and I heard him shaking as he's climbing, going, "What I believe I can
that's
achieve."
incredible.
And I believe it. And then he jumps down. I catch him. He had a blast, and we celebrated. And that was the beginning of building his self-confidence, and that was the beginning of building his mantra.
Right.
Now, for me, I motivate myself with a lot of anger.
Yeah.
I don't go to a happy place.
Yeah. No.
I go to an angry place, and I say a lot of ugly things like, F you to him, like,
Yeah.
you can do this, whatever. I am very encouraging to myself, but it wouldn't sound like it because of the things I'm saying.
Right.
And what I'm doing is I'm accessing the things that hurt me, and I'm using them for fuel.
Leveraging it.
That's right. That's right. And you were too.
Yeah.
And
It's
like
a beautiful thing.
you are, it doesn't matter if it's a marathon, half marathon, 5K, or what. Those lessons are life lessons,
Right.
that apply to every other
I
area
was
of your
just
life.
going to say, like, the same thing we do there, I do there. We do in business, tough client, tough call, tight financials, whatever it is, 100%.
Shake it off and keep going.
Same mindset. Yeah.
Shake it off and keep going.
Yeah.
You got to finish.
100%.
Got to finish. You got to finish the race of being a dad.
Yep.
Got to finish the race of being a husband.
Yep.
Which, by the way, the failure ratio on those is probably higher than Moab.
Oh, 100%. I believe
Like,
it.
I would imagine that
What is it, like 60%?
more. You got to think about it.
Probably.
So I was reading about this. My wife is awesome. My
Yeah.
wife is so laid back and cool, but behind the scenes, she doesn't take any shit.
Yeah.
So when I was young, I was reading a lot of success books, a lot of money books, growth books, be great at selling real estate. And my wife came up to me one day and said, "Am I the priority?" And I said, "Of course you're the priority." She says, "I don't see you reading anything about me.
Yeah.
I don't see you reading anything about being a better husband. I don't see you reading anything about being a better dad."
Yeah.
And I'm like, done.
Yeah.
So we made a commitment for every 3 books I read on business success or wealth, I have to read 1 on being a dad, 1 on being a husband.
You actually instilled that in me. So one of my 90-day goals of my 5 that I write every single day is read 2 books on becoming a better father and a better husband.
That's it.
Because of you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Well, that was it. And for me, I started studying on marriages, right? So our marriage ratio, religious and secular, is about the same. So like being in a church, there is a little bit of a difference there,
Right.
but not that
Not much. Yeah.
So let's say it's 60%. Okay.
Right.
Mostly initiated by women, by the way.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit north of 60, actually.
Right.
But think about this. How many people are married for the kids right now?
Right. Exactly.
How many people are married but can't afford to move out? Like I can't afford an apartment.
That probably
You can't
takes it
afford-
to 85 or 90%.
It probably
to be
pushes
honest.
it up north of 70.
Yeah.
So that means like Moab, 100 people start,
Yeah.
more than 70 finish. 70% finish, right? Or is 50? Well, how does that work?
I think my year, I think it was 45.
45% finished. That means 55% failure ratio.
Yeah.
That means more people fail
Finish
in marriage.
Moab.
More people do on 240. Statistically.
Statistically, yeah.
Yeah, more people finish Moab than finish their lifetime married.
True.
So with the deck stacked against you,
Yeah.
my question is, men and women out there, is how are you practicing adversity?
Right.
Because it's going to come.
100%.
Are you prepared mentally for your spouse to? And if you've not experienced this, I hope you don't.
Yeah.
You probably will.
Yeah.
Especially since you got into your relationship real young.
Right.
Is your wife saying, I don't know if I want to be married to you anymore?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Are you prepared for that?
Right. Great question.
I mean, like, for real. Like,
I feel I am, but
what are you doing to prepare for that? This is it.
tough questions.
That's one of them. You can access this.
Yeah. That is what instantly comes to mind.
Mental
right there.
toughness.
Is I'm going to make it through. It sucks. I love you. I'm going to make it.
Right.
Like tomorrow I'm going to pick my shit up. I'm pull my pants up by my bootstraps or whatever that saying is, and I'm going to make it through.
Right. So you assign a value to
Yeah.
getting a stupid ass medal and saying I completed a race, which most people can't even comprehend.
Right.
Like, I've done one ultra, which was 50 miles of running, 7 miles swimming,
Right.
120 mile, 200 or 300 mile bike ride.
Yeah.
And I did it with other people.
Yeah, yeah.
So with you, when you're doing 240 miles of running,
Yeah.
that's how many days?
3.
3 days. And what most people don't know is, like, at some point you probably started hallucinating.
Oh yeah, the last 60 some miles.
Like, so now you're on like this acid trip trying
Yeah.
to run,
Yeah.
you know,
Seeing little babies as the rocks looking at you laughing.
really?
Oh yeah, it was wild. Crazy stuff.
I mean, you can't even, I mean,
There was a literal dead cow up in one of the mountains, gutted, like by coyotes and stuff, and I thought it was fake. And then I saw the video after. I'm like, oh, it was real. I couldn't tell the difference between real and fake at that point.
and
Yeah.
well, I mean, like, again, let's set the context here.
Yeah.
If you concentrated on picking your feet up and putting your feet down at 200 miles, you can't.
No.
If you concentrated on any level of pain in your body, it's excruciating so bad that you can't move.
Incomprehensible at that point. Yeah.
Right? It is beyond, like, you have literally pushed the barriers.
Yeah.
Now you're only in your mind, and now your mind is at a point where it needs to trick itself.
Oh yeah.
And it actually starts hallucinating to keep you going.
Yeah.
But here's the crazy thing. It keeps you going.
It does. So
The
like,
body quits,
Yeah.
the mind goes.
Yeah, 5 miles to go. I felt like I got attacked by a scorpion in my shoe. I felt like there was an actual scorpion in my shoe. Freaked out, got stung, got bit by the scorpion, took my shoe off, took my socks off. It was a bursted blister. It took me 15 minutes to recover from that because I was so mentally like looking for this scorpion everywhere. Yeah.
And were you by yourself? Or?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, and then you have 5 miles left.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
it was the final stretch. that happened.
what most people don't know is on a 5K, 10K training run,
Yeah.
the last 2 miles are actually harder.
It's way hard.
5 miles, like that last segment is extreme. You'd think you'd have this like runner's high.
Yeah.
I jokingly tell people I've never experienced running high.
The last 100 feet. That's about it.
Yeah. I've experienced running sucks.
Yeah.
I've never experienced runner's high. But the reality of this is that you get through it.
Yeah.
How do you get through it? Like, and I want you to take a moment here and I want you to answer it in this way. There's somebody watching this video that's going to apply your answer to, I'm ready to commit suicide. I'm ready to quit my business. I'm ready to get divorced.
No, that's a good point.
I want to give up.
It's going to get better. I don't know. I believed in myself enough. I believed whatever put me here on this earth had something in store, and just kept moving. I don't know. That's a great question. I just knew there was something better coming.
I love
100%.
that. I love that. There's a song, and you know, another crazy part of my life is I was actually kidnapped for 2 years by my biological father.
Wow.
And he abused me as a child. And that's all of this around my
Okay.
eyes and stuff. Broke my
Yeah.
teeth, beat me up pretty bad.
Wow.
But when I was kidnapped, I actually lived in an all-black community. I was the only white kid in an all-black community.
Wow.
I jokingly say the place I lived was so black people didn't go there.
Yeah.
Like it was black.
Yeah.
And I was poor.
Yeah.
My dad would leave me for days on end. My black friends, I like always make them laugh. So one of my black friends, it's never heard me say this before, hears this, they're definitely gonna start laughing. I remember the first time someone else's grandmother beat my ass with a slipper.
Oh wow.
like that's real in the hood. Like if you grew up black,
Got your ass beat by a neighbor.
This woman,
Wow.
I ran in front of a car playing outside. My dad had abandoned me for like a couple days. I hadn't seen him in a while. And I'm outside with the kids, 12 years old, 10 years old, whatever I was. And I ran in front of a car, almost got hit by a car. And this woman, I didn't even know who she was. She just comes up and grabs me, pulls her slipper off, and beats my ass. I started crying because I got jumped by this big black woman, like some grandma. I'm a heavy woman, big boobs.
Yeah.
And then she smashes me in between her boobs. It's like, come on, child, you can't be behaving this way. Total Southern lady. And I remember that. So there's a point to what I'm about to tell you here. So that same woman saw me like all by myself and was like, get on the bus with us. I got on the church bus to go to church.
Oh my God.
And I fell in love with black gospel music.
Love it.
And there was a song they used to sing then, and I've heard it a million times. I can't think of the guy's name. Danny, try to find this for me. It might be Smokey Norwood, and it's called Worth Fighting For. And the chorus of the song says this: eyes haven't seen, ears haven't heard all you have planned for me. And there's so much more still worth fighting for.
That's awesome.
And that's the chorus of it.
Yeah.
And when you think about being poor and, like poor black neighborhoods, there's a church on every corner. And you say, well, why is there a church on every corner? Because God and those communities represent hope.
Yeah. True.
And they sing the same songs over and over again, oh, happy day. That's a song you hear. Oh, happy day. Yep. Well, we're trying to remember that today can be a happy day.
Right.
And that song, eyes haven't seen, ears haven't heard all that you have planned for me. And there's so much more still worth fighting for. And he says in the song, he says, and I'll be, and I can't remember how he says it, but he does a solo and he says, that's the one on top.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, those are the words?
Yeah, that's the words.
And he says somewhere in there, if you can zoom in a little bit, Danny, so I can look. He says,
I'm your child, I'm worth fighting for.
Yeah, let's keep going down. I'm moving by faith, not by sight, towards victory by the power of your might. You straightened out my paths and opened every door. I am your child and I'm worth fighting for. What that speaks to me is like my faith, even again, not Bible Hour with Dan,
right.
but my faith tells me that I don't have to do it.
Right.
That there's somebody else out there that is paving my way.
100%.
And all I have to do is find that path and I'm going to be all right.
And not stop.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there is like this question man has to answer. There is a God.
Mm-hmm.
I am that God.
Ooh.
It's either one or the other.
Yeah, definitely not that God.
Well,
but yeah, I know what you're saying.
One of the greatest things that ever happened to me is I realized that it wasn't up to me.
Right.
And that's where my hope comes from. And that's what Christian music says. Like black gospel Christian music is like, beautiful thing is it's not up to me.
Right.
And because it's not up to me, my sins, my failures, my mistakes are over. And keep going down a little bit more. And the verse in there that I really like says, and I'll be faithful. Keep going. And I'll be faithful to my wife and children because there's so much more, because my family is worth fighting for. Not this world. It's worth it. It's not my home. It's so worth it. But your kingdom here is worth fighting for. Yeah. And I remember the first time I heard that song as an adult, because I remember my childhood was largely blacked out. Like, you get abused and you kind of forget a lot about it. Yeah. And then like, I'm driving to school one day. I'm tapping into like my old life. Yeah. So I'm listening to the Steve Harvey morning show at like 5 o'clock in the morning on like this African-American radio station here in Orlando. And this song comes on. Yeah. And I just start the emotion just comes over me of this song. And what it reminded me of was that I was worth fighting for. Right. But here's the crazy thing about life. You might know you're worth fighting for now, but when you're in the valley of your life, like you were literally in the valley. Yeah. You forget that you're worth fighting for. Yeah. And then you get through the season and you're like, oh yeah, I'm worth fighting for. I think I'm good. And then you feel like you're uniquely broken again. Right. And you got to practice the adversity of life. And you got to surround yourself by other imperfect people. True. Yeah. And that's what this Whole Life Millionaire is all about. You may not be a millionaire dollars. Right. But like you are a millionaire. Like you are a millionaire when it comes to racing. Yeah. You are a millionaire when it comes to positive thinking. Right. You are a millionaire when it comes to family connection. And then of course you're a millionaire with the money too, right? Yeah. But like, if you gave me the option of I can have a great marriage, I can have a great family, I can live those things, but I can't have the money.
Take that all day.
I mean, without my faith, I've got nothing.
Exactly.
I mean, without my family, I've got nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Without my children, I've got nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And the greatest blessings of my life are the valley seasons, not the mountaintops.
Yeah.
The blessings came in the valley.
Right.
Question is, how do you prepare yourself for the valley?
Right.
And in your life, it was your childhood prepared you,
Yeah.
your reaction to that,
Mm-hmm.
and then this.
Yeah.
All right, so fast forward to where are you right now? What are you doing now for a living? What's life look like now? You can pull that off, Danny.
Yeah. Right now, we own a recruiting company, aka Search Group.
Okay.
That's doing very well. We got 30 clients. We started that about 3 years ago. And then I also do real estate investing as well in Reno, Nevada, and Greenville, South Carolina. And racing and running, none of that. I do want to get into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, though.
Rock
And
on.
I think you and your wife convinced me to do it
Yes.
the other night.
Yes.
So that's what we're doing right now. And we have a son on the way, Luca Angelo Argentari will be born. I believe it's going to be March 29th. Kim thinks the 27th, but soon.
All right. We're
Yeah.
going to find out now. As we try to transition into this part of your life now,
Yeah.
taking on a boy.
Yeah.
You know, like there's this. It's going to be very hard for your son to grow up. You know, my one of my mentors, Gary Keller, one day I called him up and I said, I feel so bad for my children. He said, why? My son came home and told me he got an A on his report card and he was captain of a soccer team.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, that's amazing, son. And then all my friends came over and watched my ESPN documentary.
Mm.
And then my next son does
yeah.
this. And then all of a sudden, oh, Dad, look, I got this. And then I got to get on an airplane to go get a nationwide award for sales.
Yeah.
And my kids are in athletics and one of their kids' parents are like, hey, can you introduce me to your dad? I want to learn some stuff from him. And it's like this God complex is formed.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm never going to live up to be like my dad. And I was
Yeah.
really concerned that my children were because I'm not going to stop. I mean, I cannot stop. I don't know why, but it's in me to keep growing. I feel the necessity to do that for the
100%.
benefit of everyone that follows behind me.
Yeah.
My life's dream is to change my family tree.
Right.
And I see it happening. So I'm at 50 years old, I have more energy to do it than I was 40. And I'm crazy about it. Is how do I not injure my children along the way, push them too hard?
Right.
You know what Gary told me? It was really awesome. And I'm going to ask you this. Well, let me ask you, before I tell you what he said, let me ask you, how are you going to keep yourself from pushing your children too hard?
It's a great question.
Luca, you're 5 years old. It's
Get
time
your
to
shit
start doing your
together.
first 100-miler.
Get your shit together.
Tighten up. Clean that diaper up.
Put them in a position to make their own decision. Prepare them the right way, but don't force them to do anything. I'm not, I don't know. That would be my answer.
It's going to be really hard.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough.
I mean, you lived in the shadow of your dad, who seemed like a great guy, powerlifting champion,
Yeah.
like killing it.
Basketball coach Bobby Knight, I used to call him.
Yeah.
He was literally Bobby Knight. My basketball coach was hilarious.
And so now, how do we do that?
Yeah.
So this is what Gary told me. He said, just because you made your children's life easier does not mean you made their lives easy.
That's true. That's a good point. Wow.
Just because you made your children's life easier
Yeah.
does not mean you made your children's lives easier. It's our responsibility if we're, you might be first generation cleaning up the family. You might be second generation cleaning up the family, but you're probably not 10th generation of non-dysfunction.
No.
You've got that too, right? If you're concerned about building a legacy for your family, just remember that they don't have your mission. You're the guy.
Right.
Put your family tree on your shoulders.
Yeah.
And they don't have to beat you.
Right.
And you don't, like, for example, my kids, we tell this story with my kids. Neither one of my children have been punched in the face. My daughter may have. She grew up in Venezuela. But my boys, they've never been punched in the face.
Wow.
And so it's like, did I raise a bunch of wussies?
Right.
Well, guess what? I don't need to teach my children how to fight out of the hood. You want to know why?
They don't need to fight out of the hood.
Because they've never lived in the freaking
Yeah,
hood.
Exactly.
Now, what my responsibility is going to be the same responsibility you have.
Right.
Give them a platform to grow something bigger than you.
Yeah.
I'm 100% confident you're going to do that.
Yeah.
You're putting in the work right now.
100%.
I've seen you with your wife. I've seen the way she looks at you, the way you look at her. All of the the things that need to be there are there. Now it's putting in the work along the way.
Right.
It's remembering the lessons of your former life.
Yeah, every day.
And getting better.
Yeah.
So as we sign off here,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if you had the opportunity to look back at, you know, the Angelo of 10 years ago
Yeah.
and give him some advice, what would it be?
Start a business sooner. Just kidding, but seriously. The advice would be, it's going to be all worth it. You know, just keep going, keep grinding. You know, there's not a thing I would change. Sure, there was mistakes, there was trials and tribulations. There's things that would have been nice to avoid at the time, but looking back in retrospect, it was all worth it. Every great thing that happened, every horrible thing that happened. Flipping the story has been a big thing in the last year of my life, of going back and looking at the last 10 or 15 years of, in my mind, what was a negative or a blemish on my record, right? Like, not a legal record, but in my mind, something I was embarrassed of, something stupid I did, and rewriting the story of, what did I learn from that? How did that put me on this path now? And you can look back at any mistake and realize that how big of a blessing it actually is. So
Wow. So beautiful. It's crazy because you think that I have a story, you have a story. Everybody has a story.
yeah,
And I think they're all going to end well.
yeah.
They all do end well. There's going to be rocky moments along the way, but your story's shaping up pretty damn nice.
Keep it going.
And nobody knows. Like, literally, somebody bumps into you and has, like, Danny's going to meet my MMA coach / jiu-jitsu guy in the next couple of days. You could, knowing what you know, you could look at him and be like, all right, yeah, that guy does look like he could rip my face off.
Beat my ass. Yeah.
But when he shakes your hand like this. Look, you go, ready?
Oh,
He doesn't even make eye contact with you.
Right.
He's kind of aloof. You would not even know what he does. Same thing. People are running to you like, oh, there's another skinny guy who's never
skinny Italian.
He's skinny Italian, and they don't realize that you've run, you know, literally the hardest races in the world, and that you are a savage in that area of your life. They don't know.
Yeah.
But they don't also know about the difficulties you've been through, the trials and tribulations, all of that.
Yep.
And then they tell themselves stories like, oh, I'll never be like him because.
Yeah.
But we're so alike.
So alike.
I'll leave you with this.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I had an opportunity. I've got a great friend, Wee and Annie. They let me babysit their 8-month-old. Love them. Henry, my little Vietnamese nephew. Their father, Dr. Chow, came here from Vietnam. I'm praying that he agrees to come let me interview him.
That'd be awesome.
Changed his family tree. Just unbelievable man. Well, changed his family tree, came to the United States, became a doctor, did all the things, went through Vietnam, extremely challenging life, made it happen. And their faith is Buddhism.
Yeah.
And so he funded, I'm almost sure he funded their family's temple. And it's like a mile, 100 miles away from here. I don't know what it is. An hour away from here on the coast.
Yeah.
And it's called White Sands Buddhist Temple or something like that. White Sands something like that. And my wife and I went there yesterday just to experience it. It was magical.
Yeah.
It was magical. And one of the things that they taught, and this is the thing, you know, some people are like, well, if you're a Christian, you shouldn't go to a Buddhist temple or you shouldn't do this. I go to them all.
I got to.
My faith, when I go there, it draws me back to Jesus.
Yeah.
It always draws me back to my God. Like, it's reality. But one of the things that they talk about in Buddhism, and I love it, and they chant it over and over and over again, is I am you, you are me. If I stab you, it's the same as stabbing myself. You know, if I think good of you, that means I think good of myself. And it's like this circular thing.
Like we're one.
Like we're all one.
Yeah.
And I got it. Like, I understood it philosophically, but when you just explained your story and what you were saying, like, I didn't prep you to say that. You just told the ending of my story. I tell people that when you're a child, your parents write that section of your story.
Yeah.
Then when you're a teenager, young adult, you write it with them.
Yeah.
And then when you become an adult, you write it all by yourself.
Right.
And if you were to flip to the last page of the story of my life, I already know what it says. It says your story ends well.
Yeah.
And you said the same thing. It was worth it.
100%.
Well, thank you for being on. God bless you. If people want to look you up, talk to you, you know, obviously get involved and learn something about real estate investing, engage you to help them hire somebody, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, LinkedIn would be my number one source, Angelo Argentari on LinkedIn. I would say there.
Okay, perfect. And we'll put your LinkedIn info in the show bio.
Yeah.
We'll put all your contact information there, and you don't have any problem with anybody reaching out with you
Not
and
at all.
just touching base.
Angelo at akasearchgroup.com.
Love it. Angelo, thank you so much. Guys, listen, I love interviewing people like Angelo, the imperfect people who do beautiful things. And that's what makes him a millionaire. Everybody's a millionaire at something, and you can be a millionaire at everything. And when you become a millionaire at everything, that's when your whole life becomes the millionaire life. My name is Dan Grieb. Angelo, thank you for coming in. It was an honor. On behalf of our producer, Daniel Lopez, you guys have a great day. We can't wait to do this again and have another amazing person here. If this interview has touched you in any way, would you comment below? Would you like and subscribe? And would you share this with other people? I know, Angelo, I hope you'll share it with all of your clients, your friends, and let them get a chance to know you on a super high level, just as I have. Honored to be your coach. Honored to call you a friend. Thank you for taking the time and allowing me to be on this journey of life with you.
Of course. Thanks, Dan.
You got it. God bless.